For the Bills and their fans, it goes down as the greatest comeback in NFL history. For the Houston Oilers, it's the greatest choke job. With starters Kelly, Bennett, and Jackson out, with Thurman Thomas sidelined with a hip injury, the Bills give a priceless memory to themselves and fans in winning the wildest of wild cards.
Bills can win it here. Reich puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good. And the Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. They win it 41-38. Incredible. What a comeback.
The Buffalo Bills beat the odds and make the biggest comeback win in NFL history. Good evening, I'm Miles Harrison. Rich Newberg has the night off. Our top story tonight, it was the tale of two halves out at Rich Stadium, and it had a very happy ending if you're a Bills fan. Chuck Howard joins me now to talk about one of the greatest moments in Buffalo sports history. Chuck, what a game.
Have it come down yet?
Oh, no. No way, it'll take a while.
I stuck with the Bills the entire way. End of the first half, I knew they'd do it just like you. Hey, not just the greatest comeback in NFL playoff history, but try the greatest comeback in NFL history, period. The Bills rallied from a 32-point third-quarter deficit to down the Oilers 41-38 in overtime. The Bills stay alive and now face the Steelers next week in Pittsburgh. As Miles said, it basically was a tale of two halves, plain and simple. Unfortunately, many of you folks didn't have a chance to see the game because of the television blackout, but with some help from my buddy Van Miller, who did the game on WGR Radio, we'll relive this baby hand in hand. 75,000 Bills fans did manage to make it out to Rich Stadium this afternoon, and they were stunned early on as the Oilers managed back-to-back 80-yard drives. Warren Moon to Haywood Jeffries to get the scoring going early in the first quarter.
Moon waiting for the snap, drops back, looks, fakes once, now starts to run, now throws, touchdown. He got him in the end zone.
A 3-yard pass from Moon to Jeffries. It was 7-0 Oilers after a 9-minute, 9-second, 80-yard drive. The Bills did manage their only points of the first half. Late in the first quarter, Christie, a 36-yard field goal. It was Oilers 7, Bills 3 after one quarter, but then came quarter number 2.
Here's the pass coming up, looking to the end zone, and it is caught for the touchdown by Webster Slaughter, I believe.
Moon 7 yards to Slaughter, another 80-yard drive that took 7 minutes, 25 seconds. It was a 14-3 game. And then the next possession by the Oilers. Moon again, his third touchdown pass on the day. This time, Curtis Duncan on the receiving end.
Has time, throws, and it is caught for the touchdown. What a reception downfield.
Late second quarter, and Moon would hit Jeffries, this time 27 yards, and it was 28-3 Oilers at the break. The second half, unfortunately, began where it left off for the Bills in the first half.
And incomplete, and intercepted and taken away by the Oilers. Down the left sideline goes Bubba McDowell, and McDowell runs into the end zone for the touchdown. The ball went through
Bubba McDowell, a 58-yard return of the Frank Reich interception, and it was 35-3 Oilers, but then the comeback began.
Davis running left, trying to get to the corner flag, and he is in for the touchdown. So the Bills have finally
Kenneth Davis around the left side for a 1-yard touchdown, and it was 35-10. The Bills get the ball back, and they put it in the end zone again.
Sails it long, all Beebe at the 10, at the 5, in for the touchdown. Don Beebe was wide open, a blown assignment there.
Reich 38 yards to Beebe following a successful onside kick, and it was 35-17. Bills next possession, and Reich does it again.
Reed at the 5, in for the touchdown. Andre Reed has scored.
Reich on the mark, 26 yards to Reed. It was 35-24, and the Bills were down by just 11 with over 4.5 minutes to go in the third.
There's the snap. He backs up. He looks. He throws. Reed, touchdown. Reed for the touchdown. Unbelievable. The Bills are back.
Following a Henry Jones interception on a 4th and 5, Reich hit Reed from 18 yards out. It was 35-31 after 3 quarters.
He looks, he throws, touchdown! Andre Reed for the touchdown!
Reich 17 yards to Reed, and the Bills had their first lead of the day, 38-35 with 3:08 to go in the fourth quarter. But the Oilers come back at a 26-yarder from Al Del Greco with 15 seconds to go in regulation. We go to overtime. So it was tied at 38 into overtime. The Oilers win the toss, but then Warren Moon, one pass too many. Nate Odom steps in front of this one at the 37, a 2-yard return, and the Bills are in business. Enter Steve Christie to win it.
32 yards from the center of the field. Adam Lingner ready to snap it back. It's 38 all. Bills can win it here. Reich puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good. And the Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. They win it 41-38. Incredible. What a comeback by the Bills.
And the fans are all over the field.
Absolutely incredible. This place is pandemonium.
Look at the fans pouring onto the field and the mob scene of Steve Christie. Let's go down to the locker room, Mark.
This team has a heart the size of this stadium.
This team rallied like no team has before, as you mentioned. What keyed it, as far as you could tell?
Well, I just think, Frank Reich, first of all, did just a superb job, and the defense came up big, and they made a big play in the overtime when they had to. You've got to make big plays in a game like this, and the Bills did.
As Van mentioned, many key contributors, but probably none bigger than quarterback Frank Reich, keying the huge comeback. But for Frank Reich, it's been done before.
And Reich will put it up again.
November 10th, 1984. The Maryland Terrapins trail Miami 31-0. Enter Frank Reich. Witness the greatest comeback in college football history. It was deja vu at Rich Stadium this afternoon.
When we were in at halftime, actually, Gail Gilbert came up to me and really encouraged me, and he reminded me of it. And he said, hey, you did it before in college. He said, there's no reason we can't do it again now. And I think, there's no doubt that gives you a little bit of hope, to know that it has been something like that can be done.
Frank, I think, played the best game I've ever seen a quarterback play in a situation that he's put in. I mean, the guy's got the best comeback in college. Now he owns the one in the National Football League. That's got to say a whole lot for that man.
The Bills' comeback didn't start out all that well. Starting the second half, Keith McKellar couldn't get the handle on this Frank Reich pass, and Bubba McDowell raced the other way for 6 points, putting Buffalo down 35-3. But Reich immediately responded, leading the Bills on a 50-yard scoring drive. It was just the beginning.
As the comeback was starting to build, could you sense a change in him or feel the confidence level growing?
No, I think Frank stayed kind of poised the whole time. He didn't smile much. He paced back and forth. He probably wore down the turf out there. But I was right there with him, so I probably wore down some myself.
There's not too many things that I can ever tell you that you ever experienced that or anything like that. Just, to hear the crowd just going crazy and just really being there when we needed them, not losing hope in us. The guys on the sidelines just, encouraging one another, saying, let's just stick together.
Reich's big plays were plentiful. Reich to Beebe. Reich to Reed. Reich to Reed again on 4th and 5. And the go-ahead score with 3:08 left. Another dart to Andre Reed.
Every time he comes in the ball game, there's probably half of the fans saying, Frank ain't going to be able to do it. Then another half saying he could do it. We just got to rally behind him, man. That's it.
And while everyone around him was getting caught up in the emotion of this wild comeback, somehow Frank maintained his perspective.
He'll probably kill me for saying this, but right before we kicked the field goal, somebody would say something. I don't even know what was said, but he said a curse word. And he immediately started apologizing to the Lord right there to make sure we didn't miss that field goal.
Frank, as far as Bills fans are concerned, all is forgiven.
You often talk about the song that really, you kind of almost, many of your speeches, the Michael English song, in Christ Alone. Had you known about Michael English ahead of time? Was this a song that you'd heard well before, or did this kind of grab you one day as sort of a tipping point?
Yeah, no, when I first heard the song In Christ Alone, it was performed by Michael English, written by a guy by the name of Sean Craig. It was in late December of '92, right before our Oilers playoff game, and it was my sister. I've told this story before, but my sister essentially called me up and told me she had heard this song, and she was pretty confident that I would really be inspired by the song, and she was exactly right, and that's kind of when I first became familiar with it.
Have you met him?
Oh yeah, no, since then, after that after the Oiler game, and then, you know, of course, after the game at the press conference, I talked about that song and quoted the lyrics. And so naturally, the president of the record company who he was with ended up getting in touch with me, and we have been long friends since then. And in fact, I just spoke with Michael English a couple weeks ago. And so, yeah, it's been fun to get to know him, and friendship's been a real blessing.
Do you find your kind of career is shaped around one game?
Yeah, in many respects, and in some respects, yes. In other respects, no. But, you know, certainly it was a defining moment. And, you know, defining moments are, by nature, you know, what they are. I mean, they're that big game, and one that you're kind of remembered by, but they don't tell the whole story. And, you know, so while I can appreciate and be thankful for that one day, that one game, it never really makes me lose sight of the whole process, which was, you know, in many respects equal, if not more important. And so, and the downs as well as the ups, and the, you know, so. But, you know, when it comes to football, yeah, I mean, that was, you know, I played a handful of games, and that was obviously the big one, and so that's a good thing.
What is the process? What is it that's this story? Because inevitably, you and I, in the next few minutes, I want to talk about the game, but as you led up to it and as you were just intimating, what is it that somebody who might watch this film later on would need to know?
Well, as far as, you know, I've always felt like football, you know, the vocation that I was in for a long time was a great opportunity to learn life lessons, a great opportunity to learn from good people and be associated with good people. And certainly one of the main life lessons I've learned, and was maybe epitomized in that game, it's certainly not the only thing, was, you know, you got to take life one day at a time. And it doesn't mean that you don't have goals and ambitions and vision for what you want to do in the future, but oftentimes, like in that game, when, you know, you're losing by 32 points, sure, you're thinking that you want to come back and win a game, but really the real approach that's most effective is just, you know, you can't get it all back at once, as they say, and you got to take it one play at a time and one touchdown at a time. And so that's been a great life lesson for me to learn from and to really share with other people, because the story is the same. You know, it's one person is football, might be something else for somebody else, but many times there seem to be obstacles that seem insurmountable, seem like you can't overcome, and how do you approach those kind of things? And I think part of the answer, not the entirety of the answer, is, you know, one day at a time.
Talk me through the locker room during the game. You're down by, I guess, so 25 points at halftime. What's the temperature in that? And I know I've read some things about Walt Corey getting a little excited. And,
yeah, well, here what had happened was essentially the stage was the week before, in the last regular season game, we played the Houston Oilers in Houston. And they beat us pretty bad. I don't remember the score, but it was something like 28-3 or something like that. In that game, Jim Kelly got hurt, and I came in and played most of that game. So if you do the math, let's just say that score was 28-3. I think that might have been what it was.
27-3.
27-3. Now you take the fact that now the score at halftime of this game is 28-3, and they're up by 25. So you do the math, it's 65-6. The last 4 quarters that we've played the Houston Oilers at this point, when we go in at halftime, they've dominated us 65-6 in 4 quarters of football.
75,000 Bills fans did manage to make it out to Rich Stadium this afternoon, and they were stunned early on as the Oilers managed back-to-back 80-yard drives. Warren Moon to Haywood Jeffries to get the scoring going early in the first quarter.
Moon waiting for the snap, drops back, looks, fakes once, now starts to run, now throws, touchdown. He got him in the end zone.
A 3-yard pass from Moon to Jeffries. It was 7-0 Oilers after a 9-minute, 9-second, 80-yard drive. The Bills did manage their only points of the first half. Late in the first quarter, Christie, a 36-yard field goal. It was Oilers 7, Bills 3 after one quarter, but then came quarter number 2.
Here's the pass coming up, looking to the end zone, and it is caught for the touchdown by Webster Slaughter. I believe.
Moon 7 yards to Slaughter, another 80-yard drive that took 7 minutes, 25 seconds. It was a 14-3 game. And then the next possession by the Oilers. Moon again, his third touchdown pass on the day. This time, Curtis Duncan on the receiving end.
As time throws, and it is caught for the touchdown. What a reception downfield.
Late second quarter, and Moon would hit Jeffries, this time 27 yards, and it was 28-3 Oilers at the break.
I actually think that was part of the key for our comeback, because they're feeling like now they can't lose. We're feeling like we've been totally humiliated. And, you know, the locker room, again, the offense and the defense kind of split up at the beginning. So, you know, maybe Walt Corey was going crazy over there, I'm not sure. But offensively, we just were kind of focusing and talking about, hey, one play at a time. How do we, you know, let's execute. 1 first down, 1 touchdown. And, you know, there were no rip-roaring speeches. And essentially, you know, Marv Levy's comments were, hey, let's just fight hard and go out like men. Who knows what's going to happen, but let's just go out playing hard. And that's the way we went out to start the second half.
But you start the second half, and all of a sudden, interception, Bubba McDowell. Did you feel like with whatever pent-up emotion and excitement, I mean, could they pinprick your balloon at that point?
The balloon was already deflated. You know, it actually deflated their balloon.
Yeah.
Is what it did.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden the momentum that they had, it certainly didn't, you know, I throw this interception for a touchdown to Bubba McDowell, and it was, you know, they let down. I mean, they just let down. And so I'd like to think our effort continued to be hard, you know, intense and so on and so forth. And now the difference was, it's like, you know, they just let up ever so slightly and let our foot in the door. And, you know, it's not like they quit playing. I mean, these are professionals. But Marv Levy used to always say, the difference between 98% and 100% is more than 2%. You know, you do the math and you say, well, it's only 2%. But it's really, because of everything else that it brings, it's more than 2%. And that's hard to explain, but I know it's true. So all of a sudden, they're fired up thinking, you know, because they come out the second half, right? They're thinking, hey, it's 0, every coach, if you're winning by a lot, like they were, their coach is going to tell them at halftime, it's 0-0, let's go out there and put it to them in the beginning of the second half. And once we do that, they'll quit and go home. Well, they did put it to us. They scored a touchdown early. The only problem is, you know, they all of a sudden let up that 2%, the proverbial 2%. And, you know, and again, we didn't just all of a sudden come back in one play, but it was like boom, 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 boom. Just one first down, a second first down, and then, uh-oh, quick touchdown. And then a turnover, and another quick touchdown. Oh, it's still okay. There's, you know, but then it was too late. Then Rich Stadium started going crazy. And the momentum came to our side, and we just kind of kept pressing, and eventually were able to come back.
The second half, unfortunately, began where it left off for the Bills in the first half.
And incomplete, and intercepted and taken away by the Oilers. Down the left sideline goes Bubba McDowell, and McDowell runs into the end zone for the touchdown. The ball went through
Bubba McDowell, a 58-yard return of the Frank Reich interception, and it was 35-3 Oilers, but then the comeback began.
Davis running left, trying to get to the corner flag, and he is in for the touchdown. So the Bills have finally
Kenneth
scored.
Davis around the left side for a 1-yard touchdown, and it was 35-10.
25-point deficit. But in the stands, the true believers began once again to believe. The Bills reached into their bag of tricks on the ensuing kickoff Not just an ordinary onside kickoff, but a middle onside kickoff. The Oilers, remarkably, were not even looking for it. Thanks to a crushing block by Mark Pike and Mark Maddox, Steve Christie recovered Buffalo ball. And once again, it would be one play at a time for the Bills quarterback, Frank Reich.
First touchdown, the run by Davis, and then all of a sudden the pass by Beebe. Could you feel it on the field? Could you see the defense just sort of saying, oh no, could this really be happening?
I don't think that early, no. I mean, I think, we scored one touchdown to Kenny Davis, and that makes it, 35-10. And, so at that point, because now we're midway through the third quarter, they're thinking it's still 25 points, no problem. But then we did that surprise onside kick, which is really a credit to Bruce DeHaven and Marv Levy. Bruce DeHaven being our special teams coach at the time. And, and then 3 plays later, we hit Beebe on the touchdown pass, in which, as we all know now, he stepped out of bounds on the play, but they didn't see it. So, now all of a sudden, in the course of just a few minutes, now it's 35-17, and, I think it's like, could, this is kind of crazy. Could this really happen? But still 35-17, and now we're probably, 3/4 of the way through the third quarter. I don't remember the exact timetable.
The Bills get the ball back, and they put it in the end zone again.
Sails it long, all alone. Beebe at the 10, at the 5, in for the touchdown. John Beebe was wide open, a blown assignment there.
Reich 38 yards to Beebe following a successful onside kick, and it was 35-17. Bills next possession, and Reich does it again.
Reed at the 5, in for the touchdown. Andre Reed has scored.
Reich on the mark, 26 yards to Reed. It was 35-24, and the Bills were down by just 11 with over 4.5 minutes to go.
But it was really that next touchdown, the third touchdown, is when I really felt like on our side where it came to the point like, we're going to win this game.
This was a touchdown to Reed.
Yeah. And I think it was after, and I think it was after that touchdown that we really just said, okay, not only is this a game, but we're in the driver's seat right now, and we're still down by, 11 points. But I just really felt like, things were going our way, although we did have to, in the fourth quarter, go back into the wind. And it wasn't a devastating win, but it was enough of a win to make a little bit of a factor. And that's why in the third quarter we had the wind. Right. And for me, I wasn't a real strong-arm quarterback at this point in my career. So I needed to, so some of the passes I threw in the third quarter with the wind, I'm not sure I could have thrown into the wind. Right. But that's just the way it was. It's the way it worked out.
Was Jim right there with you during the process, or were you working with pretty much with the offensive coach? How much was Kelly a factor during that, from an advice perspective? Or
Jim was great. He was 100% in my corner. But Jim knows. I mean, he knows better than anybody what it's like being out there, and especially in a no-huddle offense where you're calling the plays, where the quarterback's calling the plays. And so he knew we were on a roll, so he was there to support, and he had some things to say, but it was more of a support role at that point. And I think it was one of those times where you just know when a guy's in the zone, you just leave him alone. You know what I mean? And at that point, really, our whole team was in the zone, not just me. I mean, the whole team was in the zone, and things were going right, and it's like, let's just keep it going. Right. And so Jim was fantastic, and still to this day is, just a great friend and a real encouragement. Whenever they replay that game on television, which they do several times a year at various times. In fact, just recently they showed it, and I get a text from Jim saying, "I'm watching the game again," and he's always very encouraging in that regard. So really love and appreciate Jim.
The comeback was starting to build. Could you sense a change in him or feel the confidence level growing?
No, I think Frank stayed kind of poised the whole time. He didn't smile much. He paced back and forth. He probably wore down the turf out there. But I was right there with him, so I probably wore down some.
Couple of breaks along the way is literally Houston during the fourth quarter, a fumbled snap. Al DeGreco can't kick a field goal. Talley picks it up and runs 70 yards, and you almost had to think that there was really it was meant to be.
Point lead.
Yeah, although on Talley's run, they called it.
So that's right.
They called it back. I mean, we still got the ball,
yeah.
But he didn't get all that run. But yeah, you think it's meant to. You start thinking, the destiny thing, but at the same time, we're not. As they say, we're not God. I can't know what my destiny. I can think all I want what my destiny is, but the fact of the matter is I don't know.
Right.
And for anyone to say they do know is just it's foolish. None of us know that. Things can always change, and it would have been very easy for us to say in the first half, it's just destiny. It's destiny. The Oilers are going to win this game. I mean, they were ahead by 32 points. You'd certainly say that would be. It looks like it's destiny that they're going to win. So now that the table's turned, you can't just all of a sudden say, okay, now it's okay to say it's destiny for us to win. And I don't want to say that we make our own destiny, because I do believe, there are things that happen and of that nature that the Lord kind of works and for whatever reason, in all kinds of various circumstances, good and bad. So all we can do on our part is to play every play to its fullest. That's what I think. I don't think it's destiny. I don't think, well, we can't lose. You can always lose.
Sure.
All I know is I have to play the next play as hard as I can and execute as best I can, because the whole destiny argument is it sounds good, but at the end of the day, we don't control, or we can't know what our destiny is.
He backs up, he looks, he throws. Reed, touchdown! Reed for the touchdown! Unbelievable! The Bills are back.
Following a Henry Jones interception on a 4th and 5, Reich hit Reed from 18 yards out. It was 35-31 after 3 quarters.
He looks, he throws, touchdown! Andre Reed for the touchdown!
Reich 17 yards to Reed, and the Bills had their first lead of the day, 38-35, with 3:08 to go in the 4th quarter.
At one point, the decision had to be made. You were in field goal range, 4th quarter, 4th and 5, and you decided to go for it. And the touchdown to Andre Reed. Was there much conversation on the sidelines at the time as well? Let's take the 3 points, or?
No, not really. What had happened was, play before, I was at the line of scrimmage and I was audibilizing, and they were moving around their defense a little bit, and the play clock was running down, and they had made an adjustment defensively that I wanted to call an audible, and I didn't have enough time, so I called timeout. And everybody thought I was calling timeout because they thought I was calling timeout because I wasn't sure, like I was questioning Coach Levy's decision to go for it. And the good thing was Coach Levy and I were 100% on the same page. I mean, not that it mattered what I thought. He's the boss. I'm going to do whatever he tells me to do. But it just so happens that, I call timeout and I come over to the sideline. And, the discussion, wasn't, well, Frank, what do you think? Coach Levy knew he wanted to go for it. I went over and told Coach Levy, I said, I know exactly what play I want to run. I want to run bull 65, and if they play like a two-man or some kind of man-to-man, I think I'll get Thurman on the option route coming out of the backfield, and it was 4th and 5, and we'll get the first down. If they play cover 2 zone, I got a chance to hit Andre down the middle if he beats his man down the middle. And so I think I got good options on this play. This is the play that I want to run. And remember, it's no huddle offense, so I've been calling all the plays myself anyway. And at this point, I feel like I'm in a rhythm and I have a feel for what they're doing defensively, and that I can see it and read it. And so, essentially I come over and just tell Coach Levy, I just confirm with him, hey, I still want to go for it. I just ran out of time. I wanted to they were going to do something, and here's what I think we should do. And he gave me the okay, and to his credit, he wasn't a control freak. It wasn't like he had to all of a sudden now step in and call the play. Of course, he could do that. He's the head coach. That's one of the things that makes Marv Levy a great coach. He kind of gave us the freedom to do what we've been trained to do. And in our offense, the quarterback was trained to call the plays, get a feel for the flow of the game, and that's what we were doing.
And you...
Finally, on 1st and 10 at the Houston 17, the Bills scaled the mountain to take the lead for the first time. After a couple of tries into the end zone for the win, Houston had to finally settle for the tie and likely overtime. Al Del Greco came in to hit a 26-yard field goal with 12 seconds left, and the wildest of wild card games was still not decided.
Take the lead, another touchdown to Andre Reed. And then when Houston comes back and ties the game, what was the sense on the sidelines? Because it's been nothing but positive, except for the first few minutes of the second half. It's been sort of a positive Bills momentum, and then right at the very end, Al Del Greco, kicks the field goal. Any sense on the...
Yeah, I think it was still, I think it was still positive because our defense held them and forced them to kick a field goal. I mean, Houston's driving down the field. Remember, they got this explosive run and shoot offense. They got Warren Moon playing quarterback. They got some serious weapons on offense, and I was just thankful our defense stopped them. And because if they scored a touchdown, it's now we got to, it's a totally different game. So yeah, I felt like the mood was still positive because now all we got to do is, win in overtime.
So it was tied at 38 into overtime. The Oilers win the toss, but then Warren Moon, one pass too many. Nate Odom steps in front of this one at the 37, a 2-yard return, and the Bills are in business. Enter Steve Christie to win it.
32 yards from the center of the field. Adam Lingner ready to snap it back. It's 38-all. Bills can win it here. Reich puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good. And the Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. They win it 41-38. Incredible. What a comeback by the Bills.
And the fans are all over the field.
Absolutely incredible. This place is pandemonium.
Look at the fans pouring onto the field and the mob scene.
38 in overtime until Steve Christie hits for the game winner.
From being down,
Terrific picture of you and Steve Christie and an embrace for all times. That's the one you see more than anything else. What you guys talk about other than screaming and yelling at each other?
Yeah, it wasn't much talking at that point. I mean, it was just going crazy, and really at that point, I was just thanking the Lord for you know, the day, and you know, it was just jubilation, and I was thinking about my family sitting up in the stands. I had about 20 or 30 family members and friends sitting up in the stands in this one section, and you know, was thinking about them, and you know, so the celebration between Steve and I, and as everyone ran out, you know how this kicker makes the winning field goal like that, you know, team's going to run out, and so I was just, you know, I kind of wanted to get that embrace with Steve, and then I was, you know, it was just more jubilation and you know, let's go in and celebrate.
Right. 35-3. They come back in the second.
And the Bills win it, as Van said, 41-38 in overtime. And hey, Marv Levy, you never know.
Well, it was before 35 almost, to tell you the truth, Larry. No, I just said this is a humiliating day, and did I think we still had a chance? Well, there was a lot of time left, and there's a glimmer of a hope, but I mean, it's about the same chance you have to win the New York lottery.
A lot of people, I think, probably wanted to turn it in, but we didn't, and perseverance paid off for us.
I think if you ask anybody on the team how they feel, you know, they'd probably tell you the same thing. It was an unbelievable comeback. We played in the second half better than any team that I've been associated with, you know, as far as the Bills are concerned. You know, I just can't describe it right now.
Like I told him, I said, hey, this team's got an awful lot of character, and for us to be getting that butt beat in our own backyard doesn't make any sense, and for us to play like we did the first half. I mean, it was like they were just running through us like we were a sieve. And, you know, Walt told us at halftime that, good, Mr. Wilson. Hey, 60 minutes, baby. Told him that's what it takes, 60.
This afternoon.
When we were in at halftime, actually, Gail Gilbert came up to me and really encouraged me, and he reminded me of it. And he said, hey, you did it before in college. He said, there's no reason we can't do it again now. And I think, you know, there's no doubt that gives you a little bit of hope, you know, to know that it has been something like that can be done.
Frank, I think, played the best game I've ever seen a quarterback play in a situation that he's put in. I mean, the guy's got what was it? The best comeback in college. Now he owns the one in the National Football League. That's got to say a whole lot for that man.
The Bills' comeback didn't start out all that well. Starting the second half, Keith McKellar couldn't get the handle on this Frank Reich pass, and Bubba McDowell raced the other way for 6 points, putting Buffalo down 35-3. But Reich immediately responded, leading the Bills on a 50-yard scoring drive. It was just the beginning.
There's not too many things that I can ever tell you that you ever experienced that are anything like that. Just, you know, to hear the crowd just going crazy and just really being there when we needed them, not losing hope in us. The guys on the sidelines just, you know, encouraging one another, saying, let's just stick together.
Reich's big plays were plentiful. Reich to Beebe. Reich to Reed. Reich to Reed again on 4th and 5. And the go-ahead score with 3:08 left. Another dart to Andre Reed.
Every time he comes in the ball game, there's probably half of the fans are saying, oh, Frank ain't going to be able to do it. Then another half saying he could do it. We just got to rally behind him, man. That's it.
And while everyone around him was getting caught up in the emotion of this wild comeback, somehow Frank maintained his perspective.
What did your wife say to you? Do you remember the words that she said to you?
Well, you know, of course, I didn't see her till probably about, you know, an hour after the game. Right. And, you know, I don't remember her exact words. I do know driving back in the car, you know, afterwards, which I lived fairly close to the stadium, so it's probably only about a 10-minute ride home, that, you know, we drove home listening to that song, In Christ Alone.
Right.
And, you know, honestly, just, you know, weeping and just saying, Lord, thank you. You know, we recognize this is a gift, and you know, I realize people say, oh, it's a football game, God doesn't care, but I disagree. And now what I would quickly also say was a month later when we were playing the Super Bowl 27, and we lost 52-17, and I tied the record for the most fun. I think God had a hand in that as well too, you know, and so I don't just think God is with me in the good times. I think He's with me in all the time, and so and He's God, and so it's, you know, even though there's many more important things in life than a football game, I believe that He cares very deeply about people, and so circumstances do happen that, as the Bible says, that are for our good and His glory, and sometimes that comes through good things, and sometimes it comes through bad times. And, you know, when they're good, I'm going to thank them and learn from them. And when they're not so good, I'm going to thank you, Lord. And I don't always like the way it feels to go through heartache and suffering, whether it's a football defeat or whether it's something more tragic, you know, health crisis in your family, other difficult things that come along. You know, I have to believe and know that God is in control. And I do believe that, but I also believe we have a responsibility to live our life to the fullest. And so after the game, I could genuinely celebrate, thank God for it, but that doesn't mean that I just thank God, you know, when things go my way.
You went from the Bills to Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and Carolina to Detroit.
Actually, I went to the Jets in between.
Jets, okay.
Yeah.
Always curious, at some point when you have to, somebody either tells you or you wake up one morning and you look your wife in the eye and say, I think this is it, honey. Is that tough?
You know, for me, it wasn't that tough. You know, after my 13th year in the league, I retired. Well, actually, not right after the season. It's a long story, but essentially halfway through the middle of the off season, I went into our coach in Detroit, Bobby Ross, and said, I'm done. He said, he tried to talk me out of it. I said no, and he said, well, if something happens during the season, can I call you? I said, yeah, but I don't know if I'll come back. Well, he called me during training camp to come back, and I said no, but eventually he said yes. So I came back for my 14th year, and at the end of my and when I came back for that year, I just knew at the end of that year I knew I was finished, physically, emotionally, you know, in every way. So my children were getting an age where now I was having to move back and forth and take them out of school here and put them in school here, and it was just getting too hard to do. So so I was ready, you know. And I actually retired on my own terms. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. I didn't get cut. I made the decision to retire, and so it wasn't where, you know, I felt like I got as much out of my NFL career as I possibly could have. Played as long, many more years than I thought I would play. So when I finished, it wasn't as hard. Now, it doesn't mean, you know, transition. There are many great things about playing in the NFL. So the transition, as you know, it's pretty well known that most football players really struggle with the transition. And I think I had my moments of difficulty, but, you know, I think by and large the transition went pretty smoothly for me because I just believed that, you know, I was just on the next stage of my life, and I was excited about what would be next and being able to spend even more time with my family and do some other things and other challenges, and it was fun.
I have two iconic images of Frank Reich. The one with Steve Christie, the other where you gather at the end of the game with a variety of folks and you know, give praise and prayer. Was that something that you was already with the Bills at the time, where you, with Don Beebe among others, sort of get in the center field with other teams?
Yeah, I was kind of no, I wasn't the catalyst of that. It was kind of a league-wide thing, and I don't know if it can be attributed to any one person, but it was essentially, you know, probably the people who were the catalyst to it as much as anybody were the chaplains of the teams. You know, the chaplains of all the teams get together as well, and they probably get together and say, hey, you tell your guys, I'll tell my guys, let's just meet out and just pray together. Thank the Lord for the day, pray for anybody who's gotten hurt. You know, take a time to show solidarity and unity amongst Christian brothers, that even though we're competitors in this game, you know, it doesn't come between us as far as, you know, how we feel and what we believe about our purpose in life. And so, so yeah, those were always, you know, those were always good times.
Any regrets?
No, I really don't have any regrets. You know, very, very thankful. You know, of course, when I was playing, I always felt like, you know, I had to play behind Jim Kelly, and so I never really got to play a whole lot, and always wondered, you know, well, what if I would have been a starter at some point. But then the one year I had with the Jets where I got to start 7 games, then I realized why I was very thankful to be a backup. It's physically pretty demanding, and so I'm very thankful for the career that I had, and very content with you know, the ups and downs that I had in my career, mostly ups, and mostly good times and good people and good relationships, and you know, that really served to help me grow a lot as a person. And you know, but I think not only helped me to grow as a person, made me a better husband, better father, but hopefully made me a better person to be able to give back in the community and help other people, and you know, and still be able to do that, you know, and still, you know, for better or for worse, because of the Bills-Oilers game, it does present a unique platform, and there is a story there that, you know, a comeback story that people want to hear. Because why? Because so many of us in life find ourselves at points where, you know, at some point in our life, everybody's going to feel like they need to come back. If they haven't already, they're gonna. And we all go through it. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small, and I think that's what people can relate to, you know. It's not just the fact that, you know, it's not so much the, you know, the person, it's not me, it's just more, this is just common to every person. And we all have experienced it, we all know it's real, and so somehow I think that enables me to personally to learn, but also maybe personally help some other people to whatever extent that I can.
What's next? You're underway to Indianapolis, quarterback coach, Colts. Is there a game plan for Frank Reich for the next 5 years?
Yeah, live each day one day at a time, just like the comeback game, you know, one play at a time. You know, after I got out of football, I had opportunities to go into coaching right away, but I was not ready to do that for a couple reasons. A, you know, I felt like it was time that I could go do some things in ministry that I really wanted to do, and that's 1A. 1B would be I wanted to spend time with my family. I knew the demands on a coach's life were such that my children were all real young. I wouldn't be able to be there at a lot of their events, and I really wanted to be, and it was a priority for me to be. And so, you know, I wasn't a multi-millionaire, but I had made enough money that I didn't have to go into coaching in order to feed my family, that I could make a very modest to low income, you know, doing other things and be okay. You know, I could make $30,000 a year and still have made a little bit of money playing football that could kind of fill in the gaps and you know, provide a cushion for 10 years essentially to, you know, change diapers and go to soccer games and help kids with homework and you know, that whole time I could have been coaching in the NFL. But it's like now that I'm coaching in the NFL now 12 years later, I just recently told my wife, you know, people have said, well, don't you wish you could have gotten into that you would have gotten into a 12, you might have been a head coach in the league by now. Now, I wouldn't trade any of those 12 years for all the money in the world. You know, and the relationship that I have with my daughters, to be able to be there during those years, you know, is priceless. And, you know, that was a decision that I made back then that I have zero regrets on. And so, but now they're, you know, the oldest one is in college, the second one's getting ready to go to college, and you know, there's still work to be done as a parent. You know, we're hardly out of the fray, but you know, I'm at a point now where, you know, my wife and I just decided that, you know, I like football, I like coaching, and there was an opportunity, you know, thanks to Bill Polian and Tony Dungy, and then of course our head coach now, Jim Caldwell, to give me an opportunity to get back into it, which is pretty rare when you consider, you know, I was out of it for 11 years and doing something completely different. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be back involved in football again, you know, being a quarterback coach with the Colts, and you know, again, find myself surrounded by some pretty good people. And, you know, that's been the story of my life, really. I mean, I feel like, you know, I'm just so thankful to the Lord that, you know, He put a great mom and dad, brothers and sisters, brother and sister, I should say, great family, friends, teammates, you know, and now I'm with this great organization in the Colts. And so, you know, we'll just see where this all goes. I mean, I'm going to enjoy each day, and I'm enjoying it right now, and, you know, looking forward to the challenges ahead.
You know, a person's often judged by the company they keep, but along the way, whether you was with Jim Kelly or Boomer Esiason or, you know, Peyton Manning, you know, you've had opportunities, and at the same time, I'm sure they have appreciated the relationships they've had with a guy like Frank Reich, and really quite remarkable. Your story is quite remarkable.
Well, you know, I mean, I really think that my story, you know, I think we're all, yeah, I think the story is remarkable in as much as it's a story of, you know, it's a story of God's grace. I mean, you know, because I really feel like, you know, who am I? I mean, you know, I feel like, who am I to, you know, to help somebody else? I got enough problems of my own. But yet, you know, I believe there is something inside us. I do believe God, you know, that when, you know, as we submit our life to the Lord, that He does put His Spirit in us, and He gives us this life that is something that is greater and more powerful than the negative feelings, than all the other garbage and baggage that we bring, that, you know, that just empowers us to, you know, not live for ourselves, but for Him. And so, but, you know, but to me, when I say, you know, living my life for the Lord, you know, to me that means as a football coach, it means I do a great job as a quarterback coach. You know, I do my work in such a way, and I have the kind of work ethic and the kind of professionalism that would represent God the way He should be represented. And, you know, when I get opportunity, if somebody asks me what I believe or how I think about certain things, I'm not going to shy away to tell them, but at the same time, I'm not going to go beating people over the head with the Bible or trying to push my beliefs down somebody else's throat, so to speak. I just want to try to live my life doing what I'm supposed to be doing, interacting with the people that I'm interacting with, rubbing shoulders with all kinds of people, and just making a little bit of progress every day, and that's all I can do.
Well, you've made a difference, and you continue to make a difference, and God bless you. I think it's just terrific, Frank, and I'm thrilled you're able to share that story tonight at Chautauqua. So it's a wonderful crowd. You'll enjoy the experience. But thank you. I asked for 20 minutes and I stole 40.
Well, thank you.
And it was enough for kicker Steve Christie. The Bills looking for the 32-yard field goal to complete the miracle at Rich.
It'll be 32 yards, center of the field, right to hold. Snap is backing down, kick is up on the way, and the kick is good. And the Buffalo Bills have advanced to the second round of the AFC